So, I don't know if today is either the first day of spring or the last day of winter, but in either case, it is the most snow that we've ever gotten for the whole year is going outside right now. So, no new comics today, but I realized I forgot to do the weekly roundup of all the other books I bought, so it works out. So I'm just going to do rapid fire reviews of all these. There will probably be spoilers in at least some of them, but overall, it'll be, yeah. So, Marvel 2-in-1 number 4. For one thing, they lost the superstar artist they had on the first two issues, who was Jim Chung, and this new guy, who is, Valerio, I'm not sure how to say that. And this issue it's the first two issues of the series are much better than the last two issues have been, but this is still a pretty good series. Basically, that they end up going into this other universe where things are just slightly different to try to find their versions of Reed and Sue. Johnny, of course, doesn't know that Reed and Sue are not in the multiverse at all. Thing thinks that they're dead. They're not actually dead. They're like basically playing God. I don't know, that's how Secret Wars ended anyway. But this issue ends with the really cool revelation of what exactly is up with this universe, and that is that Doom got the power of Galactus in order to stop Galactus's rampage on Earth from Fantastic Four number 50 back in the day. And he vowed not to eat Earth, but he decided to eat everything else instead. So Earth and its sun are the only two things left in this entire universe. So that's a pretty cool twist. The problem is that everything leading up to that twist, Diversity in Comics did a full-length review of it, and he is right. They're not acting in character. Also, the Indian scientist lady that they have helping them reminds me a lot of Symmetra. So it's like, it kind of just feels like they ripped her off. But, whatever. Astonishing X-Men, number 9. This is the series that was getting a lot of press initially, and now not a lot of people are talking about it. But I don't know, I still like it. It doesn't help me that I don't know a lot about deep X-Men lore, so I don't know some of what's going on. Like, I don't know who this... Oh gosh, what's his name? The main bad guy... Proteus, that's his name, yeah. I don't really know anything about Proteus, so a lot of what he's doing here doesn't make any sense to me. I guess the original Proteus was basically only a kid with godlike powers, but this new Proteus is thousands of years older and has had much more time to refine his powers. And so now he's basically given this entire town the ability to just simply think what they want into existence, which immediately results in this one guy murdering this other dude. So it is an interesting story. I like the team dynamic. It seems like they have a different artist every issue or so, which makes it kind of weird. I liked the artist the last time, and this one, I like it too, because it has a much more, stylistic bent to it. So yeah, like this series. Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, another series that is just really good every, month in and month out. Actually, every 2 weeks in and 2 weeks out. This one has the entire Green Lantern Corps descending on this planet that has two suns around it to try to rescue Hal Jordan. And at first, it looks like they're going to win. It looks like that their powers are combined are going to be enough to take down these 3 Kryptonians. And then it turns out that the 3 Kryptonians were basically allowing themselves to get smacked around because they didn't want to. They were trying to avoid an intergalactic incident, but it's kind of too late for that. So then they just decide to start trying and are able to completely dominate the Green Lantern Corps. And so, and you can see Kyle Rayner here, who has 2 rings. He has his own ring, and he has Hal Jordan's ring, which is powered by Hal Jordan's will, which I actually don't know anything about that. I didn't read the, initial arcs of this series. So it ends with Hal all by himself against Zod, even though Zod, his wife, and his kid just defeated a significant percentage of the Green Lantern Corps all by themselves. If you've ever read the story Superman Red Sun, which isn't canon, but it's still been very influential, there's a scene where Superman manages to single-handedly take on an entire group of Green Lanterns. So it seems like that they're going with this idea that the Green Lantern will is basically much, much stronger than the Kryptonian, or it's not, it can't compare to Kryptonian power. It seems like this comic goes with that, although it helps that because they're in a binary star system, that they're getting power from 2 yellow suns, so they have even more raw strength than they normally would. Wonder Woman 41, this is, or 42 rather. I mentioned this in the haul video for the week. This cover is Brian Hitch. This is not a good cover. Like Grail and Wonder Woman just have really weird looks on their faces, which is a shame because Brian Hitch is normally a really good artist. And he's going to be the artist on the Hawkman series that's going to be coming out in a couple months. So that's cool. So this has to do with Wonder Woman's brother, who had been portrayed as this irresponsible, immature, sort of bro, almost man-child, and now he's come back and he has armor and he's more focused and he has more control over his powers and he has no idea how any of that happened. The last couple of days for him have been a complete blur. All he knows is that he's much more focused and he knows where to find the thingy that's happening. So basically Darkseid and his minions, including his own daughter, are trying to track down these whatchamacallits in order to harness the power of the old gods to somehow reclaim ownership of Apocalypse or something. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to lie. So we get this pretty cool fight scene between Wonder Woman and Grail. And gosh, every issue with this double-page ad. Why does Grail have... It just annoys me that she has the side of her head shaved. I mean, it's good that she's a villain that has that, but it just annoys me. That's all. And then she is somehow, because she's the power of, she's Darkseid's daughter, she's able to somehow break free of the lasso of truth, which you're not supposed to be able to do, and she gets away, but luckily she didn't get the whatchamacallit that they were after. And so Darkseid decides that the only recourse they have is to attack Argus's store that has all of the whatchamacallits that that they need. So, yeah, pretty decent issue there. Next up, Trinity 19. This one concludes the arc of them being on Skartaris. You see Jennifer Morgan here. The art is not, unfortunately, done by Patrick Zircher, who had done 17 and 18. But the art here by Jack Herbert is actually really good. I mean, you see Jennifer Morgan, the Warlord's daughter, here. You see Demos here looking really buff. So even though it's not Patrick Zircher, he still seems to subscribe to Patrick Zircher's ideas about how superheroes should be idealized because they're supposed to represent, sort of the best of humanity. So a lot of the weirdness of the past couple issues, like them suddenly aging really quickly, Wonder Woman being blind, Superman having his powers greatly reduced. It's all explained as being because of the magical defenses that Jennifer Morgan had placed around the castle Shambhala in order to sort of protect them from intruders, and she knew that they were going to affect the Justice League the way that they did, and she didn't care because she figured, apparently correctly, that it would be enough to get through it. So she comes off as pretty Machiavellian through this whole thing, which from what little I've read of the old Warlord series, I don't remember her really being, but oh well. I guess it's technically a different version anyway. And then we find out that the person they've been talking to this whole time is Steve Trevor, and then we find out it's not Steve Trevor, it's the Warlord's enemy, Demos, who has somehow stolen Steve Trevor, and so that sets up the next arc, the search for Steve Trevor. So, don't know where that's going to take them, but yeah. Sideways #2. So the DC New Age of Heroes has been doing a lot of things right, and it's a shame that the sales numbers aren't as good as they could be. I don't really know why exactly they're not selling well. Maybe people just... I know when I first saw it, I didn't get it. I did a video about this months ago where I was going through the solicitations for this, and it just looked weird and an obvious ripoff of Marvel, and I didn't really get that that's kind of the point. That the idea is let's do Marvel better than Marvel's doing, which, given the state of the Spider-Man books right now, which is what Sideways is an obvious ripoff of, is pretty easy to do, doing Spider-Man better. And then you get really cool pages like this by artist Kenneth Rockefort, who there was somebody on Twitter. If you don't follow Twitter drama, a couple weeks ago he was saying that the Diversity Comics crowd is praising Kenneth Rockefort on Sideways because something, but they didn't praise his work on Ultimates. Why? Because Ultimates starred female or person of color as its leader and multiple women and blah blah blah. It's like, you know that Sideways is a person of color, right? I mean, he's adopted, and I guess he's Hispanic. It's kind of hard to tell what race he is, but it's stupid. But the art is really good, and we see here that Sideways gets his butt kicked by this really, Kirby-esque looking character that seems to be some kind of cosmic protector of space-time, and Sideways' power works by making holes in space-time with his hands, so he is not happy with him and vows to kill him to try to, restore order or something. Sideways is able to get away, but he ends up having to be hospitalized because of his escape method of escape, which was just simply falling down a building and hoping it worked out, which it ended up, but not without consequence. And then this issue ends with them introducing, I think it's a new character. If it's not a new character, she's not somebody that I'm familiar with, but this speedster who I don't know how she got powers, but her name is Killspeed, which is not the greatest name ever, and she doesn't have much of a costume, although she does have that booty. But basically, she gets shot by the police, and then the police, they bring her in, but it turns out that her healing is enhanced by her speed as well, so she's able to get back up pretty quickly. And then Sideways, dressed only in the hospital gown and his mask, says, "Let's step outside." So, yeah, somebody who can teleport over distances versus somebody who can use super speed. One of the great comic book questions about which one would win. Mr. Miracle #7. A lot of people have said that this issue is kind of, this one is a little bit of a step down from the past issue, and it is weird. Like, the whole thing takes place in the emergency room. And it's just about giving birth, and this is a situation I've never been in, at least not in Mr. Miracle's position, obviously, where I've had to watch somebody give birth. So some of this goes over my head. I don't know. There was a lot of tension here because you suspect that something's going to go wrong with the kid, and sure enough, it does. It ends up getting born with the umbilical cord wrapped around its neck, and since it's the daughter of is it son or daughter? I think it's a son. The kid of Big Barda, its skin and her skin, the umbilical cord, is unbreakable, and he has to use this knife that the female Furies give him in order to cut it. But as you can see, the kid nearly dies in childbirth, and but then it doesn't. So not a whole lot happens here with the issue, at least nothing obvious. Maybe a lot of things that are set up here will pay off later. They also mention the lump, which was in the old Mr. Miracle series, the original one, the Kirby one. the lump was this being the dark side had that basically sucked joy and happy emotion and replaced it with fear and doubt and depression. And it was something that Mr. Miracle had to overcome. So if they're making a reference to that with the kid, it's kind of dark, honestly. Action Comics 999. We are almost there, one issue away from Bendis coming. This cover is kind of misleading because this is actually a relatively quiet issue. There is a whole scene in here with the cyborg Superman, Hank Henshaw, where Superman decides that he has a duty to help those that are stuck in the Phantom Zone by finding alternative ways of punishing them. Because, I mean, Hank Henshaw has killed millions of people with the whole Coast City thing in the Death of Superman story. So he can't just let him go free. And he's also tried to take over the universe in the Sinestro Corps War. But, you know, that doesn't mean that he's sticking him in the Phantom Zone is going to fix that. And it may actually just make him even worse. So he gives him this prison made out of this crystal that allows you to basically hallucinate whatever you're thinking about as a therapeutic means of helping him to reconnect with his lost family. Meanwhile, Sam Lane, Lois Lane's father, John Kent's grandfather, visits for a family meal, and it doesn't go well because they immediately start arguing, and he's about to walk out, but then Clark comes back and manages to at least partially mend this relationship as well. And we see them having dinner, although we also see these roses that Sam Lane had given them in the beginning starting to wilt, which is kind of weird because these roses are supposed to be artificial. So, yeah. So it suggests that dark times are maybe ahead. And then finally, Versus number 2. This is the original Move the Needle book. And like I said, a lot of people are boycotting Image, or at least they said they were going to. I can understand that. The problem with saying that is that Image, I think they're nonprofit. So, buying this Versus number 2 does not go into the pockets of Michelle Perez. Like, when you buy Action Comics, some part of this is also used to pay Tom King and Mitch Gerads, because it's one big umbrella company that publishes these two things. But when you do Image, this is only going into the pockets of the people involved in this, including Ivan Brandon and Assad Ribic. So it's, I can understand that people are really pissed off with Michelle Perez and Eric Larson, but it also kind of doesn't make any sense to do that. So the big problem with Versus is that they have not, and it's a deliberate choice, I think. I don't think it's a matter of bad writing. I think it's just a matter of they just throw you in the deep end and expect you to swim on your own, because they don't introduce characters, they don't introduce the world. I'm not even sure what planet they're on. It doesn't seem to be Earth. And I'm not sure if these people are aliens or if they're just genetically modified humans. And when characters are introduced, they're not given any kind of a backstory. So the whole issue here is that the main character, Sada Flynn, has been recuperating from the injury he received last issue, and now it's been several months, and he's finally ready to get back into the game. But the team that he's joining, because I guess they have like in esports, they have like teams and stuff, and the team is completely different from when he left it. And the person who's in charge is this woman here, Devi, who it turns out is actually really competent and is able to lead the team maybe better than Sada could, because she is able to work out this plan that ends up working, and then Sada Flynn goes off on his own to get this one guy, and the one guy is able to get a sneak attack on him, so even though he wins, their team wins, he ends up looking like a jackass and gets injured again, so that they basically have to kick him off the team, Only at the end of it, it turns out that even though he's lost a lot of his sponsorship deals, he's lost a lot of hard money. His ratings have actually gone through the roof, so there's still opportunities for him. So I guess we'll see where that leads. But yeah, this is still still a very interesting series. It's just, and the art, of course, it's Assad Ribic. It's gonna be good. I mean, look at some of this. But the problem is that you're kind of, and Diversity Comics said it in his review of this too, you're always on the verge of being completely lost. Whether it's, just working through the dialogue about who is who, or whether it's these action sequences. So if you can get used to that, this is a good series. But that's probably going to be off-putting to at least some people. So anyway, that is the haul for the week, or at least last week. Don't know when I'll be able to get to the comic store this week, though. But yeah, tell me, what do you think of these series? Tell me if you read them. Like, comment, subscribe. In any case, this is Unranked Chevron signing off.